Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our latest episode of Real Take Real Estate with the Joseph team, where we give you our real take on today's housing market and everything to do with the real estate industry. I'm your host, Maddie Maloney, followed by my co-hosts,
Joe Sambear
and Sam Feda.
So today we wanted to dive into our customer experience and exactly what you can expect when working with our team. And so this is something that we really pride ourselves on. And I know that we've kind of mentioned it in previous podcasts, talking about, how important it is to have a great team standing behind you. But we really wanted to dive into, why it is so important and exactly what you can expect. So we're going to go over, our experience, and then maybe a little bit of what you can expect from some other lenders, maybe some online banks, and maybe some things that can go wrong there. And then a couple of our customer success stories as well, and really what sets us apart. So, Joe, would you like to start off with, a little bit about our team's experience, maybe the history of why we think that it's so important as well?
Yeah, we talk about this amongst each other all the time that there's so many moving pieces in the mortgage process. And that can open up a lot of anxiety for the customer, for the realtor, for all the parties involved. And when we see things fall apart and we see the anxiety levels high, it's usually because of communication. Mm-hmm. So we've committed ourselves over the years of doing this for 20 plus years now, we've committed ourselves to really strong communication. And the bar for us for customer service is high. Mm-hmm. We want an excellent customer experience. And that is always a very big challenge in the mortgage industry with all the moving pieces, because you can't control everything. You got the title company, you have so many parties we've talked about in the past, the realtors, appraisers, home inspectors. There's just a lot of things going on in a very tight time frame. And we think that the communication is really the key. So that's our focus when we talk about customer service. A lot of it has to do with how we're communicating with you, whether it's via text or email or phone calls. We want to meet you where you need to be and give you the information you need. And that's always a challenge too. Everyone has different expectations, and they have some general understanding or no understanding of the process. And so what we've tried to do as a team is make sure we have talented, experienced mortgage professionals who also have the one thing they have to have is excellent customer service skills.
Yeah, and that's always
communication skills.
Yeah, exactly. And that's always a primary focus of ours is that communication piece. And it's constantly evolving, constantly changing, and that's just the main part that we, keep an eye on and make sure each person gets communicated with how they want to be communicated with.
Because I think when we've talked about where the breakdown occurs with other, whether it's our team or with other banks, and we've seen problems occur in the mortgage process, most of the time those problems can be fixed. And the anxiety was just because there's a miscommunication. And so you have to be so intentional about that. And because of that, we've committed to a 10-point communication plan, we call it internally. That's what we call it. And it's basically being very intentional at 10 different milestones throughout the mortgage process. So we always do those things. You always we're going to call you at pre-approval. Yes, we're going to do this at this stage. But it's actually being intentional to make sure that actually occurs every time, because the one time it doesn't might be the time that the ball gets dropped or the anxiety level runs high. And so that's what we want from our customers. When that first conversation that all of us have at this table with our customers is, listen, if you ever feel uncomfortable about something, if you ever feel like you don't understand something or not unsure about what the next step is, just call us. You have our cell phone numbers. You can text us. We're open to that. We think that's a huge advantage of working with us, is that
definitely
you'll be able to catch us on a Friday night when you're with your family and you might have some questions together. You can just get us on the phone, because usually we can address those issues.
And I know that some mortgage bankers, they have been able to run very successful careers without giving out their cell phone and without texting late at night. And, if that works for them, great. But I think that, with our customers, we have found that it just creates a whole nother level of elevated customer experience, and a whole, they're just so more confident as when going through the process, because they know that they can text us at night. They can text us on the weekends, when something may come up or they have these questions, and we're always going to be there for them because we know how important it is. And we want to make sure that you feel comfortable and reassured through every step of the process. So yes, this 10-point communication plan, this should be something that is a given with every mortgage banker and with every process that you go through. But you find that, some people might say that they're going to call you, but it slips through and they don't. So that's why this year we just wanted to make it a point to our realtors and to our clients that we are dedicated to this.
Yeah, because what can happen is what we'll find, and we'll talk about this a little bit more too, is with, there's certain, with technology and the advancement in technology, you'll see some mortgage companies do a spectacular job with online application or a spectacular job with, maybe your disclosures that you e-sign, you electronically sign. And some of the technology things are like flashes of very good improvements in the mortgage process. But we're still not there.
Yeah, exactly.
So there is still a lot of human involvement in, there's gaps that have to be filled. And we want to make sure we're filling those gaps so that in the end, you're getting the product, you're getting what actually, we talk about this all the time.
Yeah.
The first conversation we have is, what is your goal and objective? What are we trying to accomplish with this? Because sometimes, people, we just kind of start the process and say, okay, we're going to put 20% down. This is what we're doing. But like, okay, let's step back let's just make sure this is what you're looking for, and let's have this conversation, because there might be a different way to do it. We might recommend something else. So we do want to have those advisory kind of phone calls of like, what you're trying to do. We'll give you some feedback of what you can do, and it's your choice to
Exactly.
do, of course. But.
Yeah, and one of the things too with the online lenders where they can just, you go in, punch your information on, and they just give you that blanket approval for, $300,000, $400,000, whatever it is. And that just, a lot of people don't realize how much more goes into it and what actually are their goals, for the monthly payment. What are they comfortable with for the cash to close? So them, saying, here's your approval at $300,000, they go out there, make an offer, and don't have those initial in-depth conversations up front. That kind of what sets us apart, to make sure the deal's going to work. We're not going to set them up for failure if they go out and offer on a place at $300,000 and really not a lot of work was done up front to where they actually qualify for that $300,000. So then they find themselves in a pickle where we, take those calls all the time where something went wrong because they thought they were approved and didn't plan out ahead of time. So we're really having those in-depth conversations up front.
And now they've put money into the home inspection. They have an earnest money deposit that's at risk. And there might be a high probability that, 60% of the time, 70% of the time, there's no problem.
Yeah, sure.
But it's worth the extra effort to realize, oh, this is a condo, there's association fee, or the taxes are different. So that all those things can affect your pre-approval, limits. And we do run into a lot of issues.
Oh yeah,
with
the
those.
in-depth conversation with the income too, because you can input your income as one thing and doesn't get verified on the back end, or they don't say, oh, how does your income work? Is it actually a 9 to 5? Do you work a full 40? Does it fluctuate? And things like that can affect it on the back end, where we're knocking all those parts out up front.
And so with that upfront process this past year, we've actually revamped that even more and added someone onto our team, which I think is a little bit different than what other teams do. So Joe, do you want to touch on that, on our awesome...
Yeah, we took a step that we've never done before in the past, is we found a very experienced underwriter, very seasoned with a lot of knowledge and brings a lot of experience to the table, who upon approval, our initial online application process, actually goes very deep into the underwriting process and reviewing kind of like a pre-underwrite with a lot of additional analysis, so that we're getting you some of those requests earlier in the process. So at the end, 3 days prior to closing, you're not scurrying around trying to find this one document, usually not a critical document, but still something that had to be addressed, because we've always given a lot of attention up front. So that's not changed, but just giving a little bit more confidence in the process. And being able to make it a little more streamlined for the customer, knowing up front, okay, these are the 5 things I really do need to get to you right away.
Exactly. And that helps a lot with the turnaround time too, in issuing a rock solid pre-approval letter, versus just going on clicking buttons and getting that letter. It's actually been reviewed by an underwriter, and we have that strong approval up front.
And the next experience after that is, we talk about this all the time. We have one of the more talented teams probably in the country with experience. We have the right people in the right places. And once you're under contract and we've set up your loan, it's a pretty smooth process with a lot of steps in place, a lot of people looking at it. There's not much that we are involved in regards to like having conversations, changing the loan or anything. So what I tell most customers is the best time to have these conversations about down payment, about your interest rate, what to expect, what your payment's going to be like, is upon offer. So when you're pre-approved or pre-qualified, that's when we want to have those conversations. So every time you go out and look at a home, we want you to call us on a Saturday at 2:00 and say, hey, Sam, Maddie, Joe, I'm about to make an offer on this house. That's when we should have that conversation of, what are the taxes? Does this meet your criteria? Is this the best for you? And getting you that information. That's where we can be most valuable to you, is at that time. Once you're in the system and we've set up the loan, we're not going to have problems. That's going to go very well and very smoothly. But we really want to spend that time with you, because that's where we feel like we can help.
Exactly. Yeah, that makes sense there, with strategizing when they're making each individual offer versus just, here's your blanket pre-approval amount, go out there, good luck, and then finding all that out after the offer is accepted. We've seen that where, they don't know really what they were getting into, and now there's a very stressful situation. It's all comes right back to just planning ahead, doing it all up front, and, not waiting until you find the home on Zillow to get pre-approved as well. Planning it out. If you're actually planning on buying a house, reach out up front, have those conversations, and, the pre-approval, there's no cost, no obligation. It just lay it all out there, see what you can do, and just plan as early as possible.
Even though we're saying planning, and we still can do that in a very short, quick window. Yeah, so it's not something we have to do a week in advance. But if on Saturday you're going to look at this house, you like the house, call us right away.
Call on Friday.
We really
before you go look at it.
Right. We really welcome those calls. So don't ever hesitate to reach out to us, because we feel like this is our job, and this is what we're here to do. So.
And we also know that this is the market too right now, that houses tend to be flying off the market right now. So if you find out about a house on a Friday night, want to go see it on a Saturday, and realize, I really want to make an offer on this house, and maybe offers are due by noon on a Monday or something, you don't have to wait until 8 a.m., 9 a.m. on a Monday to get a hold of us to try to scramble to get this done. We want to be able to help you with it and have this conversation with you over the weekend, because we just know how important it is, especially in this kind of market. So we are always going to be there for you, no matter the time. So we kind of talked a little bit about the beginning process of our 10-point communication plan. So, we have that initial conversation when you've been pre-approved. As soon as the application is in, we make sure to review it, let you know of any issues that we might see, but we make sure that everything's taken care of then. We have the conversation with you once you receive your purchase agreement. And then there's a couple of other points that we also make sure that we want to touch on throughout the loan process as well. So, Joe, can you go over the next couple of points?
Yeah. So after acceptance of the appraisal, usually what occurs next is what we recommend occurs for sure is a home inspection. So really, we usually start the process. We order the title work. We do some of the back end things, get our disclosures going. None of that really commits you cost-wise until we get to the appraisal stage. So that's kind of the next critical thing. But we want to make sure the home inspection is completed and looks good before we order that appraisal. That's standard. There's some nuances where that might not be the case if we don't have the time frames. But the next step where we want to let you know what's going on is communicate is when the appraisal has been ordered. So now we've ordered the appraisal. We'll let the realtors know and the customer know that we've ordered the appraisal. Usually within, I'd say 7 days is pretty standard, 7 to 10 days. we will get the appraisal back from the appraiser. And when we get it back, we automatically send it to you. So you'll get it when we get it. That will be the next piece. And then the whole time while the appraisal is being ordered, the loan's being processed. And we're going back and forth with the underwriter, clearing conditions, having them review the appraisal and the different documents you've sent to us. So at that point, we'd let you know when we have an approval. And when we have that approval, you may have a few conditions left to clear, but that's kind of a big milestone in the process. So we'll let you know when the loan has been approved by the underwriter. Maybe Sam, you can talk about the next step after the
for sure. So really, it's kind of the main focus of the 10-step communication plan is just getting those touch points every single step of the way, so you're fully informed there. And after that appraisal comes in, we send the borrower a copy, the buyer a copy of it, so they know where it came in at. If it comes in, at the price they're purchasing it for, it just moves through smoothly. The underwriter reviews it to make sure there was no issues with it. And then from there, we'll let the realtor parties know as well. So, they'll be aware that the appraisal's in and we can safely move forward towards closing. If there's any issues at that point, if it came in low a little bit, we'll have those conversations with the borrower to let them know they can re-strategize with their agent to possibly get a reduction in the sale price. And then from there, we move toward, we're kind of simultaneously doing the underwriting as well. So you may have heard from Amy on our team, who is going to keep you updated with most of those touch points throughout the process and let you know, we're through underwriting, we need a couple more items, or we're cleared up with underwriting, just waiting on title work to come in, and then we'll have that final approval. So you're constantly knowing where you're at each step of the process.
And one of the nice things about one of the newer regulations is the closing disclosure. So we're going to send you that closing disclosure, which is kind of a summary of the loan estimate, I would say. That kind of, it's a very nice formatted document that is a handful of pages that shows clearly what your payment is, what the interest rate is, what the fees are, all in one document. It's very nice. You'll get that initial CD 3 days prior to closing.
Yep, exactly.
So that has to be executed 3 days prior to closing, which is really nice because then you get plenty of time to review it. That will be another touch point. The next will be congratulations. We're totally clear if that title work finally came in or whatever it may be. And then we have a final closing disclosure. And sometimes people ask, well, you had this initial closing disclosure. What's the final closing disclosure? Well, when we do the initial closing disclosure, that's coming from us, looking at our side of things, of the rate and the different things from the contract. The final closing disclosure brings in some last minute adjustments, like if the buyer were to put a little bit more earnest money down, that will get reflected there. There might be a miscellaneous title recording fee, something
tax proration credit,
homeowners proration settlement between the buyer and seller. So just a little few changes there, and that will be very clear to you that this is the final number, and now it's time to go get your cashier's check or your wire. Of course, we always warn at this stage, wire fraud is very real and pretty rampant. So we have some special considerations. So never wire funds without talking to one of us individually. Never do it from an email. We always want you to contact the title company directly, and between the realtor partner and us, we'll help you, give you some little guidance there. And then that's it. You're going to get your final closing disclosures. You can review them prior to your closing. Day of closing, you can sign. A lot of the documents can be electronically signed. And at the physical closing, there'll be a few more.
That's the nice part too. The electronic signing, that saved borrowers a ton of time. You can knock out, I think more than half the forms online. You just click through them. And what's nice too about our system is 2 days before closing, you can actually review all the closing documents ahead of time. So that's another part, where we're being as communicative as possible to where they can see all the closing documents before they ever go. You can write down any questions they'll have, or we can discuss it up front, and then closing should really be a breeze with getting those documents electronically signed ahead of time and, showing up to sign the ones that have to be notarized and all that. So
the one thing too, that I think differentiates us, Maddie, you've asked up front is, we don't consider, once this loan is closed, we don't think we're done. We don't believe in past customers, past clients. We believe in customers for life. And so because of that, of course, our bank services most of our mortgages, not all, but most of them. We've added a client success specialist, Michael Joseph, on our team this year to enhance that experience, because that's how we feel. We don't feel like, oh, we'll just let our servicing team take it over, which they do a great job, and they do need to handle a lot of those things from a regulatory standpoint. But just that extra, there's someone here that can help make sure you get to the right place, because we really do want you to be successful, not just at closing. That's our primary goal.
Yeah, exactly.
But for the next 15, 20, 30 years, we want to be here for you, your family, friends. We want to help all those people. Sometimes people, it makes me laugh a little bit, but sometimes they'll say like, oh, you're probably too busy. Like, we're not.
Never too busy.
We really welcome we want to do the loan for your family, your neighbor, your family friend, your coworker. We that really excites us. It's something that really drives us. We really want to get those referrals and do a good job for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And you saying, all of us too busy, but that, is another thing that sets us apart, where we're never too busy because we have our team structured to where someone's always available. So if we, weekend after hours, if someone's out of the country, out of town, whatever,
It's happened.
We're always behind the scenes able to take your call, get someone in the right place to get the job done. So that really, really sets us apart in how we build those relationships and keep our clients and partners happy.
And working for a great community bank, they support all that as well.
Absolutely.
And even there's more resources there to help as well. So
absolutely,
we're really fortunate.
There's been some times, where I've had some of my close realtor partners, send someone over to me that they have been working with another lender or someone, but then that lender is going to be out of the country for 2 weeks, and this person really has a house that they want to make an offer on. So, they send them over to me, and I'm happy to help do that. And I do help them, and I'm able to, help so that they can make an offer on this home. But, with our team, if I was out of the country or Joe was out of the country or just unavailable, it's so awesome that I know I can rely on you guys 100% because one of us is always going to be available. And we are always talking with each other, and we always know what's going on so that someone can always be available to help, because we know how important it is to make those fast pre-approvals and how important it is just to be available.
And it might even be something very simple that's very important to our customer. And if it's very important to our customer, no matter how simple or complex it is, it's very important to us. And, and when one of us is substituting for the other and taking that call, they're going to get that same high. We've had the training and the experience of doing, I think we've closed 3,000 transactions over the last, or helped 3,000 families over the last 6 years. We have the experience. We know what kind of level of service our customers need, and we're going to meet them there. And if we don't have the answers or we don't have the tools, we will call some of our management over the weekend and make sure we have what we need to make those things.
Absolutely. And even that, a lot of it too is not necessarily having to call management. We can call each other and brainstorm through things. Then that's a huge, huge advantage.
Absolutely.
To being able to make deals happen and keep people happy is, we can, if we don't always know all the answers, but we can always find all the answers.
That's right.
And strategize properly to put people in the right places.
And being humble enough to, and coming back from a learning perspective of a customer brings something to our attention, like, hey, have you thought about doing that way? We're open to that. We know this world and the mortgage real estate world is constantly changing. You can't think, oh, that 10 years ago, this is how it was done. It's like, no, we have to bring a fresh approach to it. And it has helped to have wonderful experienced people around you who said, why are you doing it this way? This might be a better option for your customer. So let's do it. Let's try that. So.
And it's not just the cut and dry stuff. We make things happen where, it might not make a lot of sense.
I get accused sometimes of making it too complex.
Exactly.
So one of the main points that we just wanted to make with this is that, when you're out there shopping for a lender and maybe you're very focused on rate right now, is that we want to make sure that you don't take the customer service aspect out of it either. and that you really ask the important questions of the lender. Are you going to be available on the weekends? Do you have a team behind you? What is your process for reviewing this? Because that is going to make the difference of whether or not you're going to have a great experience going through the process, or whether, there may be a lot of bumps through the road. It may be a stressful process, but that's where we pride ourselves on, is that not only are you going to get a great rate, but you're going to know that we're setting you up for success in the future. So do you guys have any more comments, with people shopping rates?
Yeah, I would just say that, it's the little things sometimes that can make big differences, because some of our online, some of the online banks and some of the mortgage brokers, and there's some great providers out there.
For sure.
And, especially one of the larger online banks kind of like pushed the online application, and really everyone benefited from that. But that's great that you're there those first 10 days. But when things go awry, then what happens?
Yeah, exactly.
That's where we see some of the problems. And not just our team, I'd say the Joseph team and the Dart difference is just the little things of, we can lend anywhere in the country, but we're going to use a local appraiser. We're going to make sure we're not going to force you to use our title company. We're going to use the local title company that's best for you. You choose that. That's your, so we always want to put the customer first, and just on-time closings. If you're under contract, we need to close on time. I mean, that's not acceptable not to close on time. And if there is going to be a closing time issue, we're going to let you know what's what the problem might be. Maybe it was written too quickly. Maybe there's an appraisal situation, but we're going to be transparent and making sure we don't like those kind of surprises. No. So I'd say even the little things, Maddie, make a big difference. Moving across the country, missing your moving date by 2 days. It doesn't sound like 2 days doesn't seem like a big deal. It's a really big deal when you have you're moving your whole family across the country. So those kind of little nuances, I think, is what differentiates us. Because really, fees, rates, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, the government loans,
Similar,
a lot of the stuff's coming from,
really.
The funds are really coming from similar places, but it's the service and these little things that can trip you up, and that we want to eliminate as much friction for you as possible. And sometimes I tell customers, we can kind of see the situation. We're like, well, this is going to be challenging, but we are going to do everything we can to eliminate as much friction. There might be a few things that are challenging for you because of the documentation of maybe they're self-employed, complex self-employment or stuff, but we're not going to make it hard. We're trying to make it harder for you.
We have all the right people in the right places with our team and all the support to make it easy on you, basically.
Exactly. So that's just a little bit about what sets us apart. It's nothing crazy. We just like to do the small things, the simple things, but we like to do them right. And we just make sure that we do them. So, all right. Any final thoughts, guys? I think that kind of wraps it up there. So, so we've gone over our customer experience today, a little bit what sets us apart. And, hopefully this shows you why you should choose the Joseph team at Dart Bank. But of course, we're always here to answer any of your questions. But thank you so much, guys, for joining another episode of Real Take Real Estate. We will see you at the next episode. Thank you so much.